So in this video, I am going to go into how different planets in your eighth house will show how you die, because your eighth house is about your sex life and it's also about death. So I'm going to go into this. I'm going to make a video and tell you how you can see how you will die in your birth chart based on which planets are in your eighth house. Okay, so I'm going to go in order of the planetary system. So if you have Mars in your eighth house, that would be, so Mars is the planet of violence. So they say that, like, if you have Mars in your eighth house, that could indicate getting, like hit on the back of the head. So it says a possibly violent death with your head or maybe some brain injury, and it's a sudden death, so usually it would indicate to me that Mars in your eighth house would mean that your death would be a little bit unexpected. Venus, the planet of love, is a really good planet to have in your eighth house because that's a peaceful death, and that indicates that you will be at home and peacefully die in your sleep. So having your Mercury in your eighth house, it's a little bit, maybe not really sure. There are different ways that you could die, so that's not really clear cut, but it could be something related to your lungs and maybe something a little bit mental. That is your cause of death with Mercury in your eighth house. The moon in your eighth house indicates that you will be at home when you die, which is good, and the moon in your eighth house indicates that it's something like related to stomach problems or, something like that, some sort of sickness or something like that, if the moon is in your eighth house. If you have the sun in your eighth house, that means you are going to die of a heart attack. Pluto in your eighth house, that is very interesting because Pluto is about, passion and what things that we feel really strongly about. So that's not good to have in your eighth house. So that means possibly you are confined. So it could mean maybe you're in a jail or in a hospital or something like that if you have Pluto in your eighth house. It could be a violent death, or there's a lot of different possibilities, but it could also indicate that you would die from maybe alcohol poisoning or something related to drinking alcohol, so it's not good to have Pluto in your eighth house. Jupiter is actually an interesting one to have in your eighth house because that indicates that you are probably going to die when you're on vacation. Saturn is actually a really good planet to have. It's in a good placement when it's in the eighth house because, Saturn is what our limits are, and then so therefore if the problem planet is in our eighth house, it means that you are going to you're going to live a long life. You're going to live until you're at least 80, so having Saturn in your eighth house is actually a good thing. Uranus is not a good planet to have in your eighth house. Uranus indicates a sudden, unexpected death because, Uranus is all about the fun planet of, surprises you never saw coming. It could be, dying of a really rare illness that nobody saw. So it's kind of weird to have your Uranus in your eighth house. And it could be like a rare disease, like I said, or it could indicate that you die from problems. And most likely when you have Uranus in your eighth house, that means that you will die from a stroke. Neptune is not a good planet to have in your eighth house. Neptune in your eighth house indicates that you are confused. So that would not be good. That would indicate to me that maybe you have some sort of degenerative disease like Huntington's or Parkinson's or Alzheimer's. The cause of death is widely debated when people have Neptune in the 8th house, and maybe it's something that's kind of weird or uncertain. It's also not good because Neptune in your 8th house could indicate that you are possibly poisoned, and it could indicate alcohol poisoning is the cause of your death. Certainly drugs are a possibility. It could be a weird mistake, like I'm just giving an example. Let's say Tim falls off a ladder and he's repairing his roof and he falls and crashes. That could be a Neptune, and your 8th house, something really going wrong. And the Neptune in the 8th house also, there's that planet in the 8th house is also a very big indicator that you might commit suicide. You might take your own life. So anyway, again, this is my video, and this is a sad video, but I think it's very interesting to me personally. It's like one of the most interesting things. So I just did a video, and if you want to, you can listen to this video, and it explains how you can look at your 8th house, and the planets there will show how you're going to die.